Top 10 most dangerous prisons in the USA. What makes them legendary? A cold steel door slams shut, echoing through concrete and iron. A single beam of sunlight falls on a lone inmate, head bowed, hands clasped. Fear is not an idea here. It's a constant companion. Corridors stretch endlessly, every step heavy with tension. Eyes scan, minds calculate, and survival depends on patience, observation, and the choices made when no one is watching. Even beyond these walls, the shadow lingers in anxious families, whispered rumors, and a justice system balancing law, punishment, and human consequence. This is life inside America's most dangerous prisons, and the story is only beginning. A towering wall of reinforced concrete rises against the morning sky. Razor wire coils atop the fences, glinting as the first rays of light hit. Guards patrol methodically, boots striking the asphalt, the rhythm almost hypnotic. Beyond the wall, the world continues as if unaware of the life contained inside. Inside the gate, a group of new inmates steps off a transport bus. Their eyes widen at the scale, the silence, the unforgiving structure surrounding them. They are instructed, processed, assigned numbers, and issued uniforms, symbols of the system's authority. Every movement is observed, every gesture noted. In the cells, individuals find their spaces. The walls are cold, concrete bunk beds lined in symmetry, a single shelf for possessions. For some, the confinement sparks fear. For others, it ignites calculation. Each prisoner adapts, silently measuring the new environment, the people, the routines. Breakfast in the dining hall is a quiet affair. Trays clang, whispers skim over tables, and the eye contact is minimal. Alliances begin to form. Rivalries simmer just below the surface. A single misstep can alter your standing, drawing unwanted attention. The environment trains attentiveness as much as patience. The sound of a count echoes through corridors. Inmates pause, standing silently by their bunks as guards tally numbers. The strict regimen enforces control but also cultivates a psychological rhythm. Days and nights blend, defined by routines rather than freedom. In the workshop, some inmates learn trades: welding, woodworking, sewing. Hands move carefully, creating, shaping, sustaining a semblance of normalcy within the constraints of confinement. Dust hangs in the air, particles floating in beams of light, a quiet reminder of effort and patience under pressure. Education programs offer another form of escape. In small classrooms, inmates read, write, solve, and reflect. The chalkboard displays lessons not just of math or language, but of discipline, perseverance, and delayed gratification. Every lesson is an attempt to reclaim control, even temporarily, in a place designed to take it away. Yard time is structured yet chaotic. Inmates walk, stretch, and speak in measured tones. Lines of authority are invisible but rigid. Stronger inmates dominate space, while others retreat into corners. Every step is calculated, every glance weighted with significance. Isolation cells tell a different story. Doors close with finality, the narrow slit of light creating a world within a world. Silence dominates, broken only by occasional footsteps or distant clanging doors. Time stretches, a test of endurance, introspection, and the human mind's limits. Visitation rooms carry their own intensity. Plexiglass separates loved ones, voices muted, hands pressed against barriers that cannot be crossed. Even joy or connection is filtered, confined, and mediated by the structure itself. Work assignments, cleaning, laundry, cooking, each routine is a test of compliance, observation, and endurance. Monotony is both punishment and shield, shaping behavior over weeks and months. Success is survival. Failure carries consequences, often invisible, sometimes devastating. Counseling and rehabilitation programs provide moments of reflection. A single counselor, a quiet conversation, the chance to be heard. Some inmates embrace it. Others are wary, suspecting the system may not care as much about change as it does about control. The night falls, lights dim, and the building transforms. Corridors shrink in shadows, bunks glow faintly under solitary lamps, and the prison exhales a collective tension. Conversations taper, movements slow, and the silence becomes its own lesson. Even as the day ends, the work of observation continues. Eyes trace patterns in the shadows, hands remember routines, and minds replay interactions. The architecture teaches vigilance, resilience, and, above all, patience. Security cameras blink silently, recording, watching, creating another layer of accountability and pressure. Every corner, every doorway, every empty cell contributes to the psychological landscape that defines life here. Some inmates seek solace in books, letters, or quiet art. Others retreat further into thought, imagining freedom, regret, or plans for the future. These moments are precious, fleeting, and fragile. Mealtimes return, repetitive and necessary. Each tray a measure of sustenance and routine. Food is shared, taken, or ignored. Every action a small act in a larger game of observation and adaptation. In the vocational areas, tasks are both distraction and training. The smell of sawdust, the spark of welding torches, the hum of machines. These are the sounds of effort, of survival, and of identity maintained within boundaries. The infirmary is silent, sterile, yet tense. Medical staff move carefully. Illness, injury, or fatigue are navigated under rules, schedules, and strict oversight. Health becomes another facet of endurance, another test of adaptation. Night patrols maintain a rhythm of authority. Guards move through corridors, steps measured, eyes scanning. Their presence is felt psychologically as much as physically, an ever-present reminder of power, control, and consequence. Letters and messages pass quietly between inmates and loved ones. A folded sheet tucked beneath a mattress, a word carefully chosen. These are acts of hope, secrecy, and connection, small victories in a controlled world. Evening reflections see some seated cross-legged, eyes closed, hands resting, attempting meditation or control over fear. Others lie awake, thinking, planning, remembering, regretting, imagining. Transfer day brings tension. Inmates shuffled between units, gates opening and closing, new spaces, new rules, new eyes. Every move is calculated. Every transfer changes dynamics, alliances, and power structures. The weight of hierarchy is clear. Some command space by reputation, strength, or alliances. Others by compliance and subtle observation. Every interaction is a negotiation, a test of boundaries and strategy. As the night deepens, the corridors empty. Shadows stretch across floors, walls, and bunks. The building seems to breathe, alive with tension, observation, and quiet endurance. Silence dominates, broken only by distant clanging doors, the hum of fluorescent lights, and the faint echo of footsteps. These sounds become markers of time, memory, and survival. Even in the smallest cell, the world continues. The mind remains active, processing, adapting, learning, enduring. Psychological resilience is tested alongside physical endurance. By the first light of morning, the cycle begins anew. Walls, bars, routines, and humans interact in patterns of control, adaptation, and survival. The prison is both environment and teacher, shaping behavior in subtle and profound ways. Life inside these legendary prisons is not only about confinement. It is about observation, decision-making, resilience, and the human capacity to adapt to extreme systems. The legend is not in the violence, but in the endurance and psychological mastery required to survive day after day. The day ends, but the lessons continue, echoing silently, unseen, and often unacknowledged. The story of survival, consequence, and human adaptation is ongoing, waiting for the next day, the next count, the next choice. The morning sun struggles through narrow windows, casting long lines across the concrete floor. Inside, the prison awakens slowly. Bunks creak as inmates stretch, heads turning cautiously toward the faint sounds of movement beyond their cells. Each day begins with observation, mental calculation, and the constant weighing of risk. Footsteps echo down the hallway. Inmates pause, listening, reading the rhythm. Every sound is a message. Some carry warnings, others indicate opportunity. The mind becomes as vital a tool as the body, scanning for threats, allies, and the subtle rules of hierarchy. Breakfast is a quiet ceremony. Metal trays clang, the smell of processed food fills the air, and conversation is minimal. The eye contact is fleeting. Every glance, gesture, and posture carries meaning. Power is subtle, but it is present in every action. In the laundry room, steam rises from industrial machines. Wet uniforms are sorted and folded, movements repetitive, almost meditative. Here, conformity is safety. Every misstep can draw attention, and attention is a currency no one wants to waste. In vocational workshops, welding sparks fly and sawdust hangs in the air. Hands move deliberately, shaping metal and wood. Each task is both a lesson in patience and a test of focus, providing structure in an otherwise unpredictable environment. Some inmates retreat to the library, a quieter corner of the prison. Light filters through tall windows onto desks lined with books. In this space, thought is allowed to wander. Knowledge becomes a temporary refuge, and time feels slower, almost elastic. Rehabilitation sessions occur in sparse rooms. Counselors guide discussions, helping inmates reflect on decisions, behavior, and consequence. The work is subtle, psychological, and often resisted. Yet, in these moments, transformation is possible even if tentative. Outside, the yard presents a controlled chaos. Inmates move along designated paths, spacing dictated by invisible lines of authority. Fences and towers define both physical and psychological boundaries, a constant reminder of confinement and oversight. Alliances form in whispers, in sidelong glances, in small acts of solidarity. Rivalries simmer beneath the surface. The hierarchy is unspoken but deeply enforced, and understanding it is a matter of survival. Isolation cells tell a starkly different story. Doors slam, leaving narrow beams of light slicing through darkness. Time stretches differently here. Minutes feel like hours. Silence presses in, testing mental endurance and self-discipline. Even in isolation, small routines matter. A blanket folded precisely, a notebook opened, a word carefully written. These gestures maintain control over the self when the environment offers none. Visitation brings a complex tension. Plexiglass separates loved ones. Voices are muted, gestures filtered. Connection exists but is mediated by barriers, both literal and psychological. Every touch, glance, and word carries weight. Work continues through the day. Cleaning, cooking, maintaining facilities, each act a small assertion of agency within rigid structure. Monotony is both a punishment and a shield, a rhythm that teaches endurance. Counseling and mental health sessions provide a momentary reprieve from daily pressures. Inmates confront fear, guilt, and hope under watchful eyes. Some embrace it, others resist, testing boundaries, mistrusting intention. The night count begins. Inmates pause, standing silently by their bunks. Guards tally and observe. Order is maintained through routine, rhythm, and presence, but underlying tension never dissipates. Evening brings subtle reflection. Some sit cross-legged on bunks, attempting calm, meditation, or self-control. Others lie awake, replaying decisions, planning, imagining, regretting. The mind is never at rest. In the vocational areas, sounds of machines and tools continue, a counterpoint to silence elsewhere. Sparks, sawdust, and focused movement punctuate the day, providing purpose and distraction in equal measure. Infirmaries maintain their quiet vigilance. Health concerns, injuries, and fatigue are handled within strict protocols. Care exists but within limits. Dependence and independence coexist uneasily. Night patrols begin, their steps slow and deliberate. Flashlights cut lines through darkness, casting long shadows. Authority is present, psychological as much as physical, marking the space with tension. Letters and messages pass in secret or approved channels. Notes folded beneath mattresses, carefully worded words shared between inmates and loved ones. These exchanges are acts of hope, connection, and subtle defiance. Evening meals are repetitive, but ritualized. Metal trays, food measured, spaces observed. The repetition enforces discipline, endurance, and subtle social hierarchies. Inmates continue to observe one another. Every glance, posture, and interaction is data. Knowledge is power. Understanding the space and those in it is as critical as any physical strength. Transfers shake routines. Inmates are moved to new units, new cells, and new hierarchies. Each transition is both opportunity and risk, unsettling established dynamics. Adaptation is crucial. Hierarchy dominates unseen. Reputation, strength, compliance, and observation define status. Those who misread cues risk both isolation and conflict. The rules are implicit but universally understood. Corridors empty as night deepens. Lights flicker, shadows stretch. The building itself seems alive with tension, memory, and silent observation. Silence becomes a lesson. Footsteps, distant door clangs, and humming lights mark the passage of time. Every sound carries information. Every moment reinforces vigilance. Even within a single cell, minds remain active. Thoughts of freedom, regret, hope, and survival occupy space alongside fear and discipline. Endurance is psychological as much as physical. The cycle continues. Morning light, sounds of routine, meals, counts, and work. All repeat. Walls, bars, and rules structure the day, shaping behavior subtly yet profoundly. Life in these legendary prisons is defined by observation, endurance, adaptation, and survival. Fear and discipline coexist with small victories, fleeting hope, and resilience. As night falls completely, corridors empty, lights dim, and the prison exhales a collective tension. The story of endurance continues, quietly, psychologically, and unobserved, waiting for the next day, the next decision, the next test. Shadows lengthen across the prison floor as the late afternoon light filters through narrow windows. Inmates prepare for the evening count, adjusting bunk blankets, checking their small personal spaces. Every detail is observed, every action carries meaning. Some pace quietly, rehearsing mental plans, reviewing interactions from earlier in the day. Others sit, staring at walls, tracing cracks and stains, finding patterns in confinement. The mind becomes a landscape of strategy, reflection, and endurance. Corridors hum with tension. Guards pass slowly, eyes scanning. Their presence is not just physical but psychological, shaping every movement, every decision. Observation is constant. Even small gestures are recorded mentally by those who understand the rules of survival. In the workshops, sparks fly as welding continues. Sawdust drifts from woodwork, and the repetitive rhythm becomes a tool of focus. Inmates work deliberately, balancing efficiency with caution, aware of peers and hierarchy. The library remains a haven for some. Light falls across open books, highlighting faces deep in thought. In this silence, knowledge becomes a temporary escape, a mental refuge, and a way to maintain individuality. Rehabilitation programs offer structured reflection. Inmates engage cautiously, testing boundaries, weighing trust, and exploring the consequences of choices. Small breakthroughs are often invisible but vital for psychological resilience. In the yard, alliances and rivalries continue to play out subtly. Lines of authority are unseen but omnipresent. Body language, spacing, and subtle gestures communicate information more powerfully than words. Isolation cells remain stark and oppressive. Doors close with finality, leaving a single slit of light. Time stretches unnaturally, forcing inmates to confront thoughts, fears, and regrets. Psychological endurance is as much the test as physical confinement. Visitation rooms capture fleeting connections. Plexiglass separates loved ones, voices muted. Every gesture, every touch across the barrier is heavy with meaning, hope, and tension. Work assignments and chores continue to structure the day. Laundry, cleaning, and food service maintain both order and a sense of purpose. Repetition becomes a protective ritual, helping manage the stress of confinement. Evening reflections bring some to meditation or prayer, hands clasped, eyes closed, seeking calm amid the constant tension. Others lie awake, replaying the day, imagining freedom, planning, and reflecting on mistakes. Night patrols begin as corridors darken. Flashlights cut through shadows, guard steps echo, and every door, wall, and floor becomes part of the prison's silent dialogue of control and observation. Messages and letters are exchanged carefully. Notes tucked beneath mattresses, subtle signals to the outside world, acts of hope, defiance, and human connection in a controlled environment. Meals are repeated, ritualized, reinforcing structure and hierarchy. Metal trays, identical portions, muted colors. The monotony teaches endurance and observation. Observation never ends. Inmates watch each other, noting behavior, alliances, and weaknesses. Knowledge is power. Understanding the environment and people around you is as critical as any physical skill. Transfers disrupt routines. Inmates shuffled to new cells or units encounter different rules, hierarchies, and challenges. Adaptability is key to survival, and uncertainty is constant. Hierarchy dominates unseen. Reputation, strength, compliance, and intelligence dictate status. Every interaction is measured, every misstep noted. Social order is invisible but omnipresent. Empty corridors at night amplify tension. Flickering lights, echoing footsteps, and long shadows create a psychological landscape where observation and caution are constant. In cells, minds remain active. Thoughts of freedom, hope, regret, and endurance intermingle with fear and strategic planning. Psychological resilience is tested alongside physical endurance. The cycle repeats. Morning light brings new counts, meals, workshops, and observation. Walls, bars, and rules structure the day, shaping behavior subtly yet profoundly. Life in these legendary prisons is defined by observation, endurance, adaptation, and survival. Fear coexists with moments of hope, discipline with resilience, and monotony with subtle victories. As night falls completely, the prison exhales. Silence dominates. Shadows stretch across floors and walls, and the human story of endurance, adaptation, and survival continues, waiting for the next day, the next decision, the next challenge. The lights flicker one last time across empty corridors. Silence dominates where footsteps once echoed. The walls, the bars, the towers all seem to breathe with the weight of countless decisions, regrets, and fleeting victories. Even in the stillness, minds remain restless. Memories of freedom, fear, and survival linger in the shadows. Every choice, every glance, every whispered conversation has shaped the day and will shape the next. Outside these walls, the world continues, families waiting, communities judging, and justice unfolding in ways both visible and unseen. The story of life inside these prisons is more than cells and steel. It is a reflection of society, consequence, and resilience. Hope exists in quiet gestures. A folded blanket, a letter, a small act of kindness, a mind at work on future plans. Survival is measured not just in strength but in adaptation, observation, and endurance. As night settles fully, the prison exhales. Towers loom, fences glint under the moonlight, and the human story inside continues silently, relentlessly, waiting for the next dawn, the next decision, the next moment that will define life behind these walls. The doors remain closed, the walls remain high, but the story is far from over.